Hello, I'm really excited to have this new guest on the show today. It's Lauren from Neuro Hacker, and we are going to talk about all things neuro hacking, neuroscience, with a little bit of self-development and entrepreneurship as well, and just generally how the brain works and how we can get it to work in our favor or just at least understand it a little bit more. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So can you just tell the listeners a little bit about the platform Neuro Hacking, when it started, and the educational aspect of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So Neuro Hacker has been around since 2015. We were founded to really collect and advance, thinking around how to optimize your life for better. And we start specifically with the brain. And so kind of the definition of neurohacking is a subclass of biohacking that's focused really specifically on the brain and about how to better yourself by hacking the brain. As we found that the more you can do to strengthen that incredible muscle, the more good you can do in the world. And a lot of times people who are operating a deficit when it comes to cognition actually tend to do less good in the world. So we sought out and attracted some of the brightest minds in the world, neuroscientists, doctors, etc., to work on first, formulas and nootropics that can help with cognition and memory, but also to work on education and equipping people with the resources that they need to better themselves.
That's really great. And you have a podcast as well, don't you?
Yeah. Our podcast is called Collective Insights.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how would you, just a general overview, how would you recommend strengthening the cognitive behavior of the brain?
Yeah. Well, just starting out, there are 5 things that you have to know about the brain. And one is that thinking uses a lot of energy. The brain uses more energy than any organ in the body, and so it's constantly looking for ways to conserve energy. The third thing you need to remember is that it's designed to forget. It's designed to filter and forget things. And it's designed to over-index negative events. This is strictly from a survival perspective. Imagine back, we're trying to survive, something negative happens, a snake comes out and bites you. It's really important for you to remember where that was or the scenario so that you don't endanger yourself again. And then lastly, it is designed to over-index emotional experiences. And so both good and bad. And it's empowering if you understand that, because if you really want to remember or cement something in your behavior, linking that with an emotion, a powerful, positive emotion, or knowing when you have a negative emotion, maybe to be suspicious of how you remembered the event or how you're over-indexing the experience, because that's just how we're wired.
That's super interesting. So the first point that you made, which I want to kind of highlight, is the fact that we remember more negative events in our lives than positive, but because it's more of a survival aspect of ourselves.
Yeah, and that wiring was super relevant when we were out, hunter and gathering and things like that. That was really an important thing. But obviously in our current lifestyle, a negative event could be, a text that you don't like, or the news coming in that's just overly negative. And your worldview could be a bit warped because of the way that your brain is holding on to this information. It's, ancestral wiring.
Yeah. And is there any way that you suggest that we let go of these negative inputs that we have? Any way to release them in any way?
Yeah, I mean, so
I guess it's just a filtering system, isn't it? Like maybe we choose what we release and what we keep.
yeah. So I mean, going back to mental energy and knowing that it's not, and this model, I think really digging into this model for a second, because I think it'll kind of inform and give some ideas. But mental energy isn't finite, and the body's always looking for ways to conserve mental energy. And the analogy I like to think about is about managing a budget, and you wake up in the morning, and let's say, depending on your sleep and you're over, if you're fighting illness or whatever, but let's say you wake up with a bank account of $1,000 or £1,000, however, but you wake up with this, and every decision you make pulls and draws from that bank account. Every putting on your shirt, to what are you going to eat, to making business decisions and business calls, etc., are all using up that resource. And your body doesn't know if it's $1,000 day or a $20,000 day, in terms of what you need for resources. And so kind of going back to the budgeting example, how you budget is either you spend less or you make more, right? In order to, make it all balance out at the end. And so the body has three ways that it's conserving mental energy throughout the day. One is it relies and loves automatic processes and habits. And these are, if you ever gotten in your car and you're just driving automatically to work, you don't even realize it, but your brain is really looking to build habits. And one of the ways that you can conserve mental energy deliberately is by cementing in the positive habits that you want to create, so that they're automatic. You're not using any calories whatsoever. A lot of famous CEOs, wear the same clothing every day because they don't want to use any mental calories or dollars on deciding what to wear. I think that's a bit extreme, but I think that there are probably things in everybody's, list that they could say, I don't need to make a decision about that every day anymore. I'm going to make this an automatic process.
Do you think that's why like affirmations and things like this are so like beneficial and rewarding in a way, because it's something that you repeat to yourself on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, not only is that an automatic process, but the second thing is that the brain creates shortcuts and heuristics, so that when it's making decisions, it doesn't have to, put the energy into a thorough examination of the data. And so when you have these affirmations or programs kind of running that you've built up yourself, those become like the underbelly and the shortcut that your brain is looking for, to not have to work so hard with everything. And think about like our lifestyle. There's so many things that really require like deep thinking, from an email that comes into you, to an article that you want to dig into, even a conversation that you may be having with a business person. And your brain is like, I can't overanalyze everything. I'm going to take shortcuts. And so if you build up this reservoir of heuristics that you want, that are affirmations that you want to have as the infrastructure, then I think that's a really powerful way to go about it, to hack it, to neuro hack it.
Yeah, and I also think it also relates to the other point that you made, whereas if you have a positive affirmation, it's not necessarily what you're saying that matters, but it's the feeling that cultivates. So if it cultivates a positive feeling, then maybe our brain remembers that feeling more, and that's what.
Yeah. And then absolutely, and anchoring any of this with positive emotion, trying to cultivate that positive emotion is going to strengthen it significantly. And then back to the budgeting thing, the brain also filters out information. And we actually have, a system in the brain, the reticular activating system, well, we refer to as RAS for short, but it literally filters what you're going to focus on and what you're not going to focus on. And your reality may not even be the reality you expect. You're just focusing on things that your RAS thinks is important. So this is why when someone buys a new red car, all of a sudden, all they see on the road, they're like, wow, everybody has a red car. They notice all the red cars on the road. And the percentage and population of red car owners didn't change. But what happened is that portion of the brain decided, this is important. This is something I want to focus on. And so it noticed that. It started noticing, red cars more. And there's so many ways that this is, an interesting thing to just even think about how you could control, or you could cue your body to focus on certain things and not focus on other things by just affirming different topics, over and over, so that your body and your brain start looking for those. I think a gratitude practice, gratitude practice have, become very popular. And I think one of the reasons, if you do have a daily one where you're, writing what you're grateful for, at the end of every day, you start training your brain to search for moments of gratitude, and how that, how that translates into your experience of life, obviously is, beautiful. But I think a lot of the reason why that works is because of the habituation part of it. And also for the part that it's training your brain to filter and look and seek moments of gratitude.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, what would you say when someone's confused? Because I know a lot of business people, entrepreneurs, or just people in general, when someone is confused or they're not sure about what decision to make, and they have maybe 2 or 3 options, how does the brain work on filtering that through? Does it just depend on the individual and their experience of life? Or
decision making, they're definitely, that's a vast topic. I think that how much mental energy you want to spend on a given decision is really sometimes not even up to you. Your body is, depending on your, how fed, how well slept you are, your body is going to conserve energy for a decision. And how hard a decision is sometimes has to do with how much is in that bank account for mental energy. Sometimes if you're really struggling with a decision, I would ask you to ask yourself, do I have enough resources physically to make this decision? Personally, sometimes, especially towards the end of my day, after I've made 1,000 decisions in my business life, then in my personal life, I'm just, asking me what you want for dinner is this impossible, question.
Yeah.
And it's because I've spent all my mental energy. And so a lot of times I don't think, I think people are really hard on themselves, being I'm not good at this, or I'm really struggling with decisions. And maybe it's they need to fill their bank account more, or look for ways of spending, less mental energy dollars on other things. You can, and, we talked about, the 3 ways the brain is constantly looking to conserve, but, the way to build your bank account, your mental energy bank account, is through hacking your mental energy. And this is where neurohacking kind of comes in. One of the fastest and easier ways is nootropics or brain supplements, obviously, are designed to nourish the brain with more mental energy. Other ways are building neuroplasticity. And so exercise has been studied pretty significantly, and studies have shown that it literally increases brain matter. Meditation is another way to build neuroplasticity, and has been studied pretty significantly. diet plays a huge role in plasticity. And while this is like a humongous topic, right?
Yeah, it's a huge topic. And I also wanted to say as well, like with back to the decision making part, does the person's decisions that they make or choose depend on the neural pathways that are already planted within the brain? So if someone is used to making a certain decision or reacting or acting a certain way, that are more inclined to carry on this pattern, because it's the neural pathways in the brain that are repeating itself. And that's when you say like it's so important to have neuroplasticity, because then you can change those neural pathways. So do you think it can be as well like almost like a habit or a behavior that maybe someone has taken on from a childhood, that they react or make decisions from a certain place?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I love the depth of your questions because you know, our wiring, you know, from traumas, you know, everything builds upon its self, and what patterns for decision making exist have a lot to do with that. Because again, the brain over indexes negative events. So if you've had trauma, or maybe when you made a certain decision, this happened and that was super emotional for you, brain's going to wire in that direction. And then we have this, you know, these heuristics kind of stacked on top of it. One that I fall like pretty, you know, prey to is this escalation of commitment heuristic, and whatever my wiring. And this heuristic is basically, once you've committed to something, like you just keep going after it, even if all the signals are like, you need to unwind it. You know, the expression throwing good money at bad, you know, comes directly from this heuristic. But you know, how my decision wiring is like, oh, I've signed a contract, I can make it work, I can, you know, keep going, I can throw creative ideas at it, etc. And so one of the ways I've personally worked through, you know, this decision kind of pattern that I have is to one, awareness, right? Thinking about thinking. I love the word for that, which is metacognition. But being aware that these processes and this thing is going on. But then two, knowing that I fall prey to that, I'm very cautious about making a commitment to something. And when I do, I am very disciplined about writing my expectations, as well as when I can quit. Like I give I basically, before I sign or before I make a commitment to something, I write like, I'm willing to uncommit, you know, to walk away if this and that happens. And you know, there's a lot more, a lot of information out there about goal setting, SMART goals, KISS goals, you know, Mark Divine's SEAL Fit goals, and that's like a whole humongous thing. But I think knowing kind of, or starting to study like kind of where your sweet spots are for, or traps, if you will, and kind of setting up things. You know, great question to ask yourself is, you know, if I wasn't emotionally involved, would I be making this decision this way? You know, that sometimes tends to clear the fog and open up a perspective that might not be right there.
Yeah. Do you think it can go two ways as well? Like you were talking about people overcommitting, but it could go the opposite direction as well, where people are non-committal at all, right? And they don't want to commit to anything, or that, and that I think can be related to fear, maybe like it's a fear-based thing.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, I think all of us, again, we're wired to survive. And so fear is a very powerful process that's going on that can, if left unchecked, really kind of govern your decisions in a way that maybe you didn't intend.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So I think you've hit some really important points there. So thank you for sharing. And how can the neuroplasticity help with coming out of these predicaments or these pathways that we want to change within ourselves? It's quite another big question for you.
Yeah, I mean, so neuroplasticity, I mean, the definition is building, forming, and kind of wiring connections. And one of there's so many amazing studies coming out about neuroplasticity. This is one of the funnest areas right now of research, because in our lifetime, we thought that after adolescence, there was no more neuroplasticity. That has been completely disproven. Mm-hmm. And now we're finding the more you can cultivate daily activities, like a lifestyle built around stimulating neuroplasticity, the more resilient you'll be. When stress comes, the more neuroplastic you are, the better you can handle stress. Mm-hmm. And so everything from exercise to meditation to an anti-inflammatory diet, brain-rich foods, to learning an instrument, to learning a language, juggling, knitting, gardening. These are things that studies are cropping up, and they're being shown to stimulate neuroplasticity.
That's super interesting. I actually read a book about neuroplasticity. I can't remember the name now, but I remember it saying in one part that actually now it's proven that old people, or not old people, but people in later life can change their neural pathways as well now through neuroplasticity. Like you were saying, we used to think it was just adolescents, like children and teenagers or early years of life, where we could change our habits. But I think it can be done with like in later years of life as well, which is really promising. And it's very positive results.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with me today.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to give credit to the team at Neuro Hacker. I'm really privileged to work with so many neuroscientists and doctors, and have access to so many people's information. So I can't in any way take credit.
What is there anything that you'd like to share with us about anything that's happening in Neuro Hacker at the moment? Maybe actually if there's any kind of breakthroughs that are quite interesting, that you think the listeners would like to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, so we're we're focused on neuro hacking, and we have on our website a guide, which is the foundational tools for neuro hacking. Those are mind care, body care, relationships, and environment. And then you kind of drill down into the most important things, the 8, kind of leveraging the 80-20 rule. But that's a great resource for someone who is new and looking to learn more about neuro hacking. That's easy to find. In terms of breakthroughs, we spent the conversation talking about neuroscience, but we're also very focused on the anti-aging and longevity space and the field. And we're connecting, and we're working and following the research that really health is defined on a cellular level. And so our breakthrough of last year pouring into this year is really around this study of senescent cells and their impact on the body. And it's pretty exciting stuff, and something that is very early on, but my prediction is in the next 5 years, talking about cellular senescence is going to be as ubiquitous as keto or fasting protocols.
That's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that quickly?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Okay, so um, the whole kind of theory of aging is starting to be more defined, and we've taken, the science, the world of science in this space has really advanced it with defining the hallmarks of aging. And some of these go from, cell dysfunction to genes to telomeres, et cetera. But one of the hallmarks is cellular senescence. And what this is a process in the body that happens when a cell becomes so damaged that it's no longer worth putting in the effort, the energy to repair it. The cell becomes senescent. And as we age, we accumulate these cells in different parts of the body, in brain tissue, in joint tissue, in muscle tissue. And we're now linking that some of the symptoms of aging have to do with the accumulation of these unhealthy cells that are stuck. They're neither dead, they're not alive, they're taking up space that youthful cells could be there.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So would you say that the more you protect your cells earlier on in life, or the more healthy you are earlier on in life, the more those cells would be protected later in life, like the more energy you would have?
Yeah, so it's definitely a process that the body needs certain ingredients to help that have been studied, called senolytics, that have been studied and help those cells kind of be removed from the body and make room for more youthful cells. So it's a definitely really emerging category. I invite everyone. We've posted a lot of information on our website about senolytics and about cellular senescence. And I invite everyone to kind of learn more about them there and then track this field, because it's one of the fastest growing areas of research right now.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I'm going to have a look at that myself. So before we go, is there any kind of advice or anything you want to say for entrepreneurs, people setting out in that business journey, regarding the brain? Anything, any tips that you would give?
Yeah, I think, the future looks very bright in terms for entrepreneurs in the ways of being able to work and create with such endless possibilities, and the flexibility and the ease to come up with new ideas, new business ventures, et cetera, has never been easier. The downside of that is that the speed at which creation occurs is so fast. I've already seen my colleagues, my peers, I've seen many of them have hits on their health because this 24/7 hustle lifestyle that's going on. And so my advice is to ruthlessly prioritize your health and to set boundaries on that, because you can be a great entrepreneur and fantastic at a business, and you don't need to sacrifice your body. No one is a robot. And I think a lot of people think, because of this expectation to do so much, that means that they can cut corners on sleep, they can cut corners on diet and exercise, and these foundations, having a neuroplasticity practice in your life every day, it's kind of a non-negotiable. If you really want to be a peak performer, if you really want to do all the things you want to do. And just as driving a car, you can't run on empty. You can't do that to your brain and your body. So kind of my message is to ruthlessly prioritize your health, and your business, everything will follow, and you'll be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Thank you so much for sharing with me. I really appreciate it. So if anyone wants to get in contact with you, can you just give us the email or Instagram feed?
Yeah. So follow us on Instagram. We have a very active channel. It's at Neuro Hacker. And yeah, I put together a URL for your listeners as well. It's neurohacker.com/HE. If they wanted to shop or take a look at any of the products that we offer.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Lauren.
Thank you.